My name is Total Biscuit, and I suck at Starcraft 2. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of I Suck at Starcraft 2. My name is Total Biscuit on my little Protoss adventure right here. It's kind of my toy race. It's something I've been trying a little bit lately. I usually main Terran, but Protoss is interesting, and I do intend to do Zerg at some point in the future. I'm awful at Zerg, so if you want to see some bad play, you'll get it. This is a match between myself, and this was in the placements against a fellow by the name of Prototype. He is a Zerg player, and he is, as you can see by the decals there, Alliance. So, obviously, we have to crush him for the Horde. It's pretty standard setup from me right here, and do I screw up like the last time? Answer is yes, I absolutely do. Far too late there on the pylon placement, and as a result, thanks to the chrono boost, oh look, I'm supply blocked for the next 25 or so seconds, which is absolutely non-optimal. You want to watch out, and you want to really place your pylon a little earlier. Don't place it on, 10 supply, which is what I was doing right there. Place it a little earlier, then you won't have that period where you can't build anything. Little bit pointless, and of course, tiny waste of a chrono boost right there. Boost once again, and get out our probes. In the meantime, our friend over here is setting up a fairly standard pool on 14 supply. That's the best, safest way to do it, honestly. It works out that way. It's just the way that the maths work out. In that case, it was more like 13, but whatever. It works. There are other options, like, say, so-called six pooling, which involves building nothing but a pool once you've got 200 resources and mining with just the 6 drones, but that's considered to be a all-in cheese tactic. It's the classic Zergling rush. That's what happens in StarCraft 2 at any rate. In the meantime, I'm scouting out. We're on the Lost Temple right here, which means there are 4 potential places he could be. There's 4 risers, there's one here, there's one there, there's the one that he's at, and there's also one down here. There are additional expansions as well as these high-yield mineral fields on either side and a couple of islands there, which are very nice for the Terran since they can just fly over. Pretty safe way. Now, I'm setting up a double gateway right here, which is not my usual standard. I did save up a little more resources than I would have thought before I started building there. It's not as risky to wait on your construction on a map like this because he doesn't know where I am and he hasn't scouted me. In fact, the thing which disturbs me is he's made no effort to. Right here, you see he's got 3 overlords. He could have very easily started floating these overlords. They're pretty slow, but he could have started floating them over to the various places I could be, or at least sent a drone. However, that's not what he's doing. He's popped out 4 Zerglings, which is fairly standard. He's got more on the way, and he's also got his Queen coming up. And there is his fairly early metabolic boost upgrade. It's a upgrade that allows your Zerglings to move faster, and it gives them little wings. They scurry around, and they're very quick, so they're good for blockade running. Right now, I still don't have any military units, but I've got 2 Zealots coming up, and I'm building my Cybernetics core, which allows me to gain access to Stalkers and Sentries, as well as the Warp Gate technology. Now, I went into this believing I'm going to go fairly heavy Zealot. Zealot is nice against early Zerg. Honestly, they account for themselves very well against Zerglings, and my plan actually was to go with an early +1 weapon upgrade, which means I can kill a Zergling in 2 hits instead of 3, so that's a massive difference. That's why I'm not building any refineries, and I even decided, hey, I'll get the forge so I can set that up. As it turns out, that never actually ended up happening, but hey, the best laid plans and all that. I don't know why he's doing this. He's hanging around. He hasn't bothered to check if I'm actually there at all, and again, not using those drones to scout out is a fairly fatal flaw. I managed to get a probe into his base, and he hasn't seen it. So, you do what any good Protoss player is going to do, or indeed, in my case, what any bad Protoss player will do, and you try and build a so-called proxy pylon in his base. Now, that pylon is something that can be used to warp in units once you have the Warp Gate technology. Get it nice and in the corner there where he can't see it, and then we can see what we can do with that. There we go. So, he has no idea that's there for the time being. You'll have seen I tried something similar last time, but I've refined the strategy to one that works a little bit better than the last one, which, let's be honest, was absolutely awful. Now, what you'll also notice for this guy is he's making the sort of new player mistake of not spending. At every possible opportunity, he should be spending, he should be building, and he should be teching. He's not doing any of those things, and he's only got a single extractor up, and he hasn't used any of his drones to mine anything. Bear in mind, I'm not criticizing him on the basis of his skill level, I'm just pointing out the mistakes that a new player can make, because this guy is obviously fairly new. In the meantime, I'm cheesing a little bit here with a proxy photon cannon, and I'm going to be pushing out with that into his base. The thing is, I don't really need to. Now, here, watch this. I was stupid here. I moved off of my defensive line and he was able to run my blockade. He lost one Zergling and into the middle there. However, I managed to surround him, block him into a fairly small area, bring in the Zealots from the rear and bring on the damage. And you know what? I only end up losing 4 probes there. He could have done an awful lot more damage, and it was my stupid fault for moving off that line. If I'd actually just put my Zealots here, then there is no way, absolutely no way at all, that he would have been able to run that ramp. My own stupid fault, and honestly, I'm lucky he didn't do more damage there. Now, if he'd scouted me earlier, he would have seen that, and he would have been able to attack me a lot quicker, and he would have done much more economic damage. Could have potentially won the game. Now, this is what I don't get. He can see that right there. He is within viewing range, and he doesn't do anything about it at all. Those cannons are building, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to combo them with these Zealots. I'm going to mash my Zealots in there right now. And his unit count, he had about 24 of these things. Now I've got 8 Zealots. I'm focusing fire, bring them down as quickly as possible, and trying to hold them off. I managed to sort of block them in there, and they're not able to get behind me. So there's a limited exposure to the attacks of the Zerglings. I'm able to crush them easily with only a single loss, as he did not focus his fire at all. In the meantime, I'm building cannons here, and this guy is roasted. It's as simple as that. I'm in his economic line. He's got nothing he can do there. He's got more Zerglings on the way, but by the time they come up, I'm going to be able to smack them down very quickly. Surround the area that they'll appear, bring them down, limited exposure once again. I'll lose a couple of Zealots, no big deal. And even if all of my Zealots go, I've still got these cannons coming in right here. What could he have done to stop all of this? Well, you see his resource count. Hell, even mine during this attack was very bad, and that's my own fault, but I was confident of winning by this point. He should have put these overlords all over the place. There is no excuse for a Zerg player getting... This isn't even a cannon rush. This is a cannon push later into the game. A cannon rush will be done much earlier. If he had an overlord, say, here, where my pylon is, maybe one at the front and one at the rear, he could have covered all of those hidden parts in his base, and I would have never been able to set that up. It wouldn't have helped him in terms of the Zealots coming into his base, but if he'd scouted earlier, he would have seen my base was vulnerable. I was pretty slow with the army building at the start of the game. He could have got those Zerglings in and done massive economic damage. I'd have been forced onto the defensive, then he can out-tech what I've got, and that's it. And there you go, I just actually finished the ground weapon upgrade as I was winning. He runs those Zerglings into that, and needless to say, that doesn't work out for him so well. At least he manages to take down one pylon, so... Well, one cannon even, so good for him. And that's that, really. That's the analysis of why that went the way that it did. And if you are playing against the Protoss, you'll have seen in the last video, one of the things you want to look out for is the Dark Templar. Make sure you have plenty of detectors. Don't ever just use one. Cover all of your vulnerable entry points into your base with those. And for God's sake, keep an eye on those shrouded areas in your base. Put something there, whether it be a supply depot, a pylon, or an overlord, even a marine. Just put something there so that that doesn't happen to you. This is the kind of thing that a lot of players will do in early placement and ladder matches to get some easy points. And more often than not, it will work if you're not paying attention. So again, do be careful there. And my name is Total Biscuit, and I still suck at StarCraft 2. I'll see you next time.